Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Thursday, September the 18th, 2025, and today we're talking about crop rotations in a small garden, whether you can compost the plant that makes ricin, the poison, and lettuce diseases. So let's do it. Just realized I hadn't ever said the word ricin out loud, which is probably a good thing. All right, how awesome is that theme song cover from @MoreJakeThanYou on YouTube, lyrics and all, and in fact, it goes on. It's a whole awesome song that we will play throughout the show today as well. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you all enjoyed that interview yesterday with Mikey Densham. Mikey and Kez are a huge inspiration. I love their work and hope you all got some good stuff out of that. It was not that long ago that I was interviewing people in Australia and abroad, and many of them were struggling with seed and tool access, but are all like, yeah, no worries now, we're good. So that's very cool to see. Also, the stuff he said in the third segment about what makes small farms profitable and productive was really fascinating. Anyway, go have a listen if you missed it. Yesterday, I got the last field lettuce of the year, I guess. I was going to say of the season, but that's pretty much it for the year. I got that into the ground along with some winter-killed cover crop. That'll be the last of that I'm probably going to sow for the winter-killed stuff. Starting in about 2 or so weeks, I'll probably start on that, winter hardy cover crop stuff. Also garlic. Kind of want to get that off the plate earlier rather than later this season. So early October is my goal, but we'll see if I can steal some time somewhere to get that done that early, because I've also got sweet potatoes to get out of the ground and a million other things. And also Champions League soccer started, so it's a lot. It's a lot right now. All right. Today we are going to take 3 questions from one Patreon member because the issues they are dealing with are quite interesting. Specifically, these questions come to us from Patreon member Mark Hare, who is in the Central Valley of Costa Rica, who says they are high altitude in zone 10 to 11A with no frost, but because of their altitude, they have spring all year type temperatures. So that can be quite difficult. I imagine if we had our spring that we had this year all year, it would be, I think we wouldn't be able to grow anything but water. They said they also have volcanic ash soils. And anyway, Mark asked a series of questions, some of which apply to strictly tropical climates and some that do not. I'm going to pick 3 for today and maybe come back to some of the others later because they require a bit more research. But first, let's start with this one from Mark. Quote, Ricinus communis, or castor bean plant. It grows as a weed here. In the last year, we had a student from Switzerland working who scared me away from incorporating our communis plants into compost. She had learned that the ricinus is in the whole plant and can be hazardous for people, even just to handle it. I have worked around the plant for 20 years or more and never knew it was that hazardous. Was our student right? End quote. Okay, so there is a well-known poison derived from castor beans called ricin. This plant has also been used throughout history as a medicine for certain ailments in well-prepared small doses, of course. Please do not ever ingest a castor bean. The stalks and foliage of the castor plant can cause rashes and irritation on the skin of certain individuals. So especially if you've never worked around it before, it's something you should be cautious in handling just to avoid any sort of that irritation. I dug around for quite a bit and could not find anything that suggests you can't compost the foliage, though. Obviously, wear gloves when handling the foliage and then later the compost if you are severely allergic, at least, just to be safe. As for the beans, I'm not going to for liability reasons, but also because not everyone adequately composts. Say it's 100% safe to put it in compost, but I can't find any research that suggests it's going to be a problem either. Again, though, composting is a very specific process involving heating and curing to render the seeds no longer viable. Just proceed smartly. And again, if you're sensitive to something like that, wear gloves. Now, one thing I will say about the castor plant is that it is an incredible bioaccumulator. In fact, if you are dealing with contaminated soils, this might be your wingman of a crop. That said, you might not want to employ plants you use to bioaccumulate something like, say, lead and remediate your soil. You may not want to use that in your compost out of fear of having that lead concentrated in the compost and then put back onto your garden. but that's a hyper-specific example that you're probably not dealing with. Generally, I don't see any issues with castor beans in the compost. Just be smart about it. Make sure the compost reaches the appropriate temperatures and goes through a proper curing stage. Maybe if you are extra sensitive to the foliage, don't use said compost or foliar sprays just to be on the safe side. I don't think it would be a problem, but also I don't want to get you sick. And of course, if you are remediating soils or your soils where it grew are contaminated with some sort of heavy metal or something, avoid using any sort of foliage from that around food crops. Again, more than anything, no matter what plant you're using to compost, just do the composting process correctly, and none of this should be an issue. Anyway, I hope that answers the questions, at least somewhat. Next, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about crop rotations in a small garden. BRB.
Grow me a garden, the seeds that I'm starting. One day will be large if I transplant March to the garden. And if you think about a thing nothing around that's better for you to do, well, sure, your back will be hurting and hands probably dirty, but you'll have you some food.
Farmer Claire Coleman here from the Winter Growers Podcast. Did you know that I also founded Real Farmer Care, a nonprofit that supports farmer well-being? From my own experiences farming, I knew firsthand that this type of support was missing from ag, so I decided to do something about it. As of today, there are over 500 farmer recipients of a $100 self-care award, with more applying daily. If you'd like to help, each $100 donated supports one new farmer. Visit realfarmercare.com to donate and learn more. Again, that's realfarmercare.com.
All right, if you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's second Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Mark Hare. Again, sticking with our tropical theme here, Mark asks, quote, crop rotations. I pretty much know what you're going to say, Jesse. Better to keep rotations long, but how do I do that in a small garden when we have limited things we can produce for 6 months of the year? In the rainy season, we can grow fairly reliably lettuce, green beans, green onions, garlic, chives, Japanese mustard, Mizuna, red and green, kale, and cover crops. Since the mandala is divided into 4 quadrants, I was thinking I could assign 1 or 2 plant families to each quadrant containing a set of 3 beds, and then rotate the plant families from quadrant to quadrant for a 4-year rotation. But the rainy season kind of kicks my butt here with only lettuce family, mustard family, bean family, and onion family, especially because Mizuna and kale are not very popular, end quote. All right, so good question here. And indeed, a lot of folks struggle with crop rotation on a small scale. But the interesting thing is that larger farms struggle with crop rotation as well, to some extent, because some crops are just more popular than others and you don't need as much space for some of the others. So I honestly think your approach is fine here as described, but maybe you could look at some other crop families and see if you can get anything else to work in that rainy season. Maybe it's something like Swiss chard or beets, though I don't know how those would fare in your climate. Maybe it's something like fennel you could add in there with the kale and Mizuna, just so you have something else in that space that might not be as popular at the market, but could utilize that space well and be a little bit of a diversity in the rotation. What about cilantro and or dill? Get some herbs, kind of thrown in there to break it up a little bit. For me, if there is a crop like Mizuna or kale that works well but doesn't sell, I just honestly find something else. Maybe I'll grow enough for us to eat, but I'm not going to bother too much beyond that. We kill it on a few crops like that we can't sell. So instead of forcing the issue, I just work on getting better at growing something else or, just grow enough for ourselves and then grow more of what I can sell. Crop rotation wise, I think grouping those crops together and rotating them is a good approach, especially there where the pest predation has no cold spell to really break it up. Of course, with shallow rooted, less disease prone crops like the lettuces, you probably don't have to be on a 4-year rotation. Taking 1 year off in between is probably plenty. We sometimes don't even give a bed much more than, like half a year off of lettuce. So if that helps to get these rotations broken up a little bit more, then I would perhaps think about dividing it up with a little bit more lettuce. Now, of course, if things start to get too funky, as we will talk about in the next segment to employ my world-class segues, then I would break up that rotation a little bit more. Like if you're having a lot of, lettuce or whatever disease issues, then you're going to have to break that rotation up a little bit more. Your environment is just tricky with so much moisture and so little help from the cold. But with those temps should also come a greater abundance of good guy microbes and et cetera as well. So hopefully you are also involving flowers and such around the property as well to keep beneficials equally happy. I know from previous conversations you're employing marigolds. Maybe there's something else you could throw in there. I also think, and this is just what I would do thinking about this climate and, the rain, spacing is going to be key for you in general. You may want to expand your spacing a little bit through the rainy season to avoid foliar diseases from too much density in the planting itself. Not sure if I have a lot more to say on that. I do like the groupings. I like the idea of adding a little bit more spacing and another crop family if possible, or at least a different type of brassica that is more preferred in that area. So you all, the listeners, let me know your thoughts. Up next, let's talk about some lettuce diseases to be on the lookout for. Be right back.
What we're looking at here is a little stretch of land that I have had under greenhouse plastic for over 3 months now. And this is quackgrass, and it seems to not care too much, maybe a little bit, but not much about that plastic. So it's true that perennial weeds are difficult to deal with solarization.
Today's episode of the Growers Daily is brought to you by Farmhand. Farmhand is the virtual assistant built for farmers, helping CSAs scale sales, run error-free fulfillment, and deliver 5-star service. Whether you're at 100 members or 1,000, Farmhand helps you grow without burning out. You've heard us and our farmers right here on Growers Daily. Explore farmer wins and learn more at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show. All right, we're taking our last question from Mark as we, here in the Northern Hemisphere at least, head into wishing we were in the tropics season. Anyway, Mark writes, quote, "In a bed of lettuce we planted 2 weeks ago, many of the plants are growing well, but several died. When I pulled up the plant, the base of the stem was rotted. I dug around to look for white grubs, but I found only one plant with an associated grub. The stem base had a gnawed look rather than being mushy rotten. Again, could it be one of our not-so-friendly nematodes, bacteria, fungus? We are in a lull in the rainy season right now, so sunlight has been quite good, with moisture consistent but not excessive," end quote. All right, so first, it's good when identifying a pest or disease in general to take some simple observations like Mark did here. See some rot, check the stems for something eating it. That's a good place to start. Now, when the base of the lettuce plant rots, it's typically a fungal disease, but not always. It could also be something bacterial, and there will certainly be issues in the tropics that we don't have here. Typically, though, lettuce drop, rotting at the base that will eventually, cause the whole plant to go wah wah, is primarily caused by fungi Sclerotinia sclerotorum or Sclerotinia minor. These spread pretty fast and can be quite devastating, and more often than not, lettuce drop occurs in situations with excess moisture and poor airflow. Thus, the recommendations on spacing in the last segment. Fusarium could be a problem too, as it is a growing problem in Florida and other tropical areas for lettuce. It also looks similar to Sclerotinia. If it's super mushy, it could be something like soft rot, which is caused by a bacterium rather than a fungus. Not knowing exactly what the plants looked like, I wouldn't be able to identify your issue from here, but my guess is still fungal with all that rain and moisture. Not that aphids or root aphids or nematodes or etc. Couldn't also kill the lettuce, but a quick root inspection should be helpful there to be able to tell you what's going on, and to only find one potential issue like that, with that grub. That makes me think it's probably something else. Easiest thing to do is just send a sample to whatever the equivalent of the ag extension service is there and see what they can tell you. That can then inform the treatment, or at least the cause. But in your case, if you're rotating, and then that rotation should help a lot. Make sure also to pull those rotten plants to not allow for any possible sporulation and spread of the disease, meaning you want to catch it as early as possible to stamp it out. Anyway, not sure if I was helpful there, Mark. I definitely tried. I love this tropical stuff because we don't always get a lot of tropical questions, and I need to do more research for my fantasy citrus orchard that I would love to be at this winter. Otherwise, I think that's it for this Thursday, but before we go, we're going to get a quick word from our friends at Rimmel Greenhouse Systems. Whether you're growing tomatoes for market or flowers in the spring or vegetables for your family, growing in a high tunnel protected from the weather provides the right environment for a harvest you can count on. Probably would help a lot in the tropics, actually. Rimmel greenhouses are strong, durable, and easy to assemble, offering the quality you need to grow productively year-round. The team of experts at Rimmel Greenhouse Systems will be your trusted partners to ensure you get exceptional value from your greenhouse or high tunnel investment. Visit Rimmel.com today to get growing. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Our role is just to keep this information free and open to the public, and those donations help us do that. And they give you a tax break at the end of the season. So win-win. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. And to at More Jake Than You, not to be confused with Less Than Jake, I think very specifically, for the theme song cover. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat like this one or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, to support our work. You can do that at notillgrowers.com. Also, big thank you to everyone at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of September, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Patrick O'Connor. All right, so thanks, Patrick. Now, today we're going to continue on as our referee, Daisy, goes to investigate where her coach nemesis, Rusty, has gone to. She goes by Rusty's house, knocks, no one's there. She goes by Rusty's work, no one has seen him there either. And the boss tells her if she finds him to tell him he's in trouble because he's been missing several days of work. Anyway, she even goes to his favorite bar where she ran into him one night and he started crying and apologizing because he's that type of drunk. And they hadn't seen him there either. The police were now involved, so she didn't want to, step on any toes, and so she decided to give up. But on her drive home, she sees someone that looks like Rusty, younger, eerily similar though. She notices him because he looks bewildered, confused. So she stops about 100 feet after passing him, steps out of her car and calls out, "Rusty!" Then the young man turns around, looks at her sideways and says, "Do I know you?" And that is for tomorrow on Out of Bounds, the offside rule. I'm just really stretching with these soccer names. Anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you tomorrow. Bye.